Scott Talley from the worldwide headquarters of Network in Action. Today we're with Miss Cheri Tree from Laguna Beach, California. Good morning, Cheri.
Good morning. Hi.
Great to be with you. So, Cheri, we've got over 3,000 members, mostly business owners and decision makers at Network in Action. A lot of people who are all scratching and clawing to grow their business. And when I saw what you have done as a guy who's, eaten what I've killed my whole life, I've been a commission salesperson. Whether you own a business or commission sales, you got to close deals. And I want to set this up by saying to the Network in Action community, I probably have taken every sales course out there, including one I just spent $10,000 for with Donald Miller for 3 days recently. And while it was excellent, and while so many Sandler sales training has such good materials, and Action Coach has fantastic materials, and there's a lot of great technique stuff out there, and I've seen it all and I bless it all. And I think for people that are relying on sales to make a living should, it's like working out. You should do it all the time, right? But there's nothing like bank, and there's a reason. So let's start with who you are and how you got to this point. I love the story about how little money you were making and how much money you started making. So tell us that story first.
Yeah. So, after I graduated from college and got the traditional job, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I remember reading the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that was mind blowing for me. It was a couple decades ago. And Robert Kiyosaki, he said a few really critical things. He said, first of all, if you want to be a business owner, entrepreneur, you've got to be great in sales. And so I started looking for, how can I get good in sales if I want to be an entrepreneur? And he said, by the way, the number one skill in business is the ability to sell, not the ability to market or network or anything else. He's like, it's the ability to sell. And he goes on to say, if you can't sell, you shouldn't be in business. So I did what I figured out how to do, which was I got in sales and I became a financial advisor, and I worked in a model that was strict commission, just like you. And my first year I crushed it. I made $700. So that was like my whole year income. So that's where my journey began. And that's when I also realized I've got a big problem and I need to figure out a way to solve it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you scratched and clawed like the rest of us, and then you came up with a system. And so here's to me what I want to say to the audience. No matter what sales techniques you've learned, no matter how skilled you are, no matter what, the science that Cheri's about to talk about is real. And the analogy I love that you use is, there's 4 different archetypes. Is that the right terminology? Right? And we might as well be speaking German to somebody who speaks French if we're not talking to them in the way that they can hear us. So talk about not so much how you came up with it, but just like, what is bank?
Yeah, well, let me peel a little deeper layer of the story so that it all makes sense contextually. So there I was struggling, and just like you, when I made $700, I thought I better get good in sales or else I'm going to starve to death and need to go get a W-2 job again. And so I started studying every sales training I could, and I attended the boot camps and the workshops, and I read books and audio programs. I mean, even back when they were cassette tapes back in the day, hired coaches with money I didn't have to get better. And over that 5-year period, I got my income from $700 to $72,000. So at least at this point, it's respectable, right? But there was still something that was significantly missing and broke, because I was $30,000 in credit card debt, renting an apartment, couldn't qualify for a home, and driving, Scott, you'll never believe this, a salvage title BMW, playing the fake it till you make it game. And here I'm supposed to be a successful financial advisor, and my car's dying, and I have not only a set of jumper cables in my trunk, but I had to get my own battery pack because sometimes I'd be stranded and there was no one to even give me a jump. I mean, it was so embarrassing. And that's when I heard this other quote from Robert Kiyosaki. He said, stop taking advice from people more messed up than you. And I remember thinking, man, I'm a financial advisor, and here I'm trying to tell people what to do with their money, and I had absolutely no money of my own. So this is kind of where I was when my world was crashing down on me, and I was trying to figure out what's broken. Is it me? Like, maybe I'm not cut out for being an entrepreneur, or perhaps was it the system? And the best part is it wasn't me. And it's not thousands of other entrepreneurs either. It's in fact the system, and the system was programming people like me to fail by brainwashing me into believing one of the greatest lies ever told, which was that sales was a numbers game. And what they brainwashed us was that in order to get more yeses, we had to get more no's. And for 5 years, I was stuck in that hustle and grind and trying to do everything I could to generate leads and go to networking groups and participate in chambers of commerce and had business cards coming out my ears. But what happened for me was I realized I woke up one day and said, that's actually the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Because the truth is, in order to get more yeses, you actually have to get more yeses, not more no's.
Yeah.
So that's what began the journey. When you kind of talked about the 4 archetypes, I began a very rigorous personal deep dive study on how do you get a yes? And what makes someone say yes versus no? And so that's kind of where my journey took me. And, you know, part 2 of the story was I ended up cracking a code. And the code that I cracked transformed me from someone where no matter how hard I worked 60 to 80 hours a week, and no matter how many networking events I went to and how many business cards and leads I collected, I couldn't break through 100 grand a year to save my life. And all of a sudden I broke through and I started making millions. In just 12 months, this code that I cracked took my income from 72,000 to over 500,000. So 7x increase. And the best part is, Scott, I went from working 60 to 80 hours a week down to 20 to 30. So for those of you that are part of the NIA and you're sitting here, you know, saying, how do I get the best return on my investment for my membership in this organization? Well, this is why Scott's bringing this to you. Because what if this could 7x your income and do it in 1/3 the time? And now you actually get to enjoy your life and your loved ones and not just be caught in the hustle and grind of trying to figure out how to make a living.
Yeah.
So, so I cracked the code.
Yeah. And it's so important for the members to hear. I am extremely picky. And I think the first time in 8 or 9 years, I brought something like this to the membership in its totality. And that's because I am such a mother bear, for lack of a better word, protecting our members. But when I came across this, and I've been using it now for over 90 days, and I see the results, we've got to share this with people. So keep going.
Well, thank you. I'm honored. So what happened was once I cracked this code, I couldn't keep it a secret anymore, and it kind of spread viral, and we can share where it went. But by my 3rd year, I was cash flowing over $1 million a year in commissions, and my whole life changed, you know? So I want to talk about this code that I cracked. What I started realizing as I did deep dive was that there was different types of people, different personality types. And I'm sure that all your members have heard of this before. Well, what I realized was with all of these different personality types, the theory I started studying and realizing that people are different was a science called personality science. So the secret that I discovered was that sales wasn't a numbers game, it's a people game. And the science that's driving all of it, that's determining the yes versus the no, is personality science. And it dates back thousands of years to Hippocrates, known as the father of medicine, who basically figured out that there's 4 different types of people on the planet. And he could treat them differently with medicine just based on what he called their temperament. So this was the theory of the 4 temperaments. This is kind of where personality science was born. When you fast forward into today's modern world, there's been all these different assessment types that have been built, and probably your members have taken, you know, either the DISC assessment or the Myers-Briggs type indicator, MBTI, or the color code, or the Berkman method, or I mean, like literally there's dozens of these things. And in the beginning, I took these assessments and I was fascinated with what I learned about myself. But my fascination grew into frustration when I realized not one single one of these assessments ever made me more money. Not one of them ever helped me close more deals or engage more customers or put money in the bank. And I remember thinking, what's the point of taking these assessments if it doesn't impact the bottom line? That was my bottom line. Show me an assessment who can tell me not who I am, because no one ever cared. I'd never been on one. Scott, have you ever been on one appointment ever in your life where the customer said, Scott, stop. Before you go any further, I just want to know your personality type.
No.
Never, right? But, and this was critical thinking for me back then, I said, wait a minute. If it's been proven for thousands of years that there's 4 different types of people, I wonder if they make buying decisions differently. And I wonder if what makes one person say yes makes another person say no. That was kind of the theory that was like, whew. And so I started to look in the marketplace. Show me an assessment who tells me not who I am, because no one ever cared. But show me an assessment who tells me who they are, the buyer, the prospect, the lead. and show me why they buy. Show me exactly what triggers the yes or the no. And of course, back then it didn't exist. So I said, I'm going to build an experiment. So I'll kind of show, in this video here, I ended up writing a book called Why They Buy. And it's based in what I discovered was the 4 personality types based in buying behavior. And I gave it the acronym of BANK, where the B in BANK is someone who's a blueprint, very conservative, risk averse, traditional in their ways, stuck in their way. And that's a blueprint personality type. The A in BANK is action. That's the mover, shaker, millionaire maker, kind of like us, like go a million miles an hour, hair on fire, rules don't apply to them, right? Sky's the limit. The N in BANK is someone this stands for nurturing. This is someone who cares deeply about people, relationships, teamwork, authenticity, and they're more mission driven than money centric. And the K in BANK stands for knowledge. And that's the person who's constantly seeking more information. They need to know more, study more, learn more, etc. And that's the one that gets typically stuck in analysis paralysis and takes forever to make a buying decision. Well, what I realized was that every person in the world was not just one of these 4, but they were actually a combination of all 4. And that's what we call your bank code. So if you think of a bank code like a PIN code on your debit card, when you go put your debit card in the ATM machine, it wants you to enter a 4-digit sequence if you want money to come out. Well, the person you're talking to, the prospect or the lead for your membership group, is every person they talk to has a 4-digit bank code. And if you know the sequence of that bank code and you talk to them in that sequence, a yes is going to come out. And what follows the yes is, of course, the money. So people ask all the time, Cheri, is bank just like DISC, or is bank just like MBTI, et cetera? And I say, yes, it's 4 things. They're exactly the same, Scott, only completely different. And what made it basically completely different was every other profile assessment system that was out there was based in psychology, but bank was the first in the world based in what I call biology, B-U-Y-ology, the science of buying behavior. So essentially what the bank system does is we can predict someone's buying behavior in less than 90 seconds. And we know exactly what makes that person say yes versus no. This has been scientifically validated. They've done research studies on this. They're blown away by what it's doing. And then of course, we've taken it and run.
And this is what's so fascinating to me. In addition to the biology, there's Cheri's methodology. So think about it. If I could give a DISC profile to a person in the middle of an appointment and wait 45 minutes for them to take it and wait a half a day for me to get it back, I probably could have more success. But you're not going to do that. And with this methodology that you use, and there's 2 different ways, one through technology and one through just a simple set of cards, I can get that information in 90 seconds. I cannot tell you in the last 2 months how many conversations I've started with my little cards in my hand and simply saying, hey, just so I can serve you better, help me out. So I had a 1-to-1 this morning. All of our members go on 1-to-1s. I sat down with a member. I started with my cards and I said, do me a favor, put these in order, whatever's closest to your heart. You're going to have some crossover. And within about a minute and a half, she handed them back to me. And if you don't think you talk to a nurturer differently than you talk to a, what's the biggest extreme from nurture? Probably what would
knowledge.
Yeah.
Going to be very different.
If you don't think you talk to someone different, you're sorely mistaken. But I know you do know different. So keep going. So now we have these cards that are awesome. Sound sort of gimmicky, but they work, and it's a great icebreaker. It's a fantastic.
Oh my gosh, it's so fascinating. Like as soon as you introduce these cards, people become captivated by it. So let me give the context for the cards. What I was looking for was, I figured out, okay, if I could figure out the personality type or the bank code of my potential buyer and what that sequence is, then I could alter my communication to them deliberately so that I get the yes without any manipulation, just truly like, how do I serve them? I need to know what their priority is. So I came up with a little set of cards because what traditional sales training teaches us, Scott, when we go out of the boot camps, excuse me, and read the books and audio programs is, you know, you got to like ask a bunch of questions and listen to everything and, mirror and match. And I'm like, first of all, that's reactive. And secondly, like, isn't there a better way? I still might be wrong if I do it that way. I'm looking for a way that I could be 100% right every single time. And I thought there's only one way for me to do it. I can't guess. I have to know their bank code. So I thought, well, how am I going to know their bank code? Like, no one even knew what a bank code was back then. So I said, why don't I come up with a little set of 4 cards? And these cards have the values for that personality type outlined. I was able to categorize the most important values for each one of these archetypes, personality type categories. And so, Scott, if we're role playing, the way that I would use this, and by the way, in the beginning, I didn't know if it would work. I didn't know if people would be offended by this, if they think that's crazy, but I had nothing to lose because I already got plenty of no's. So what's the worst that could happen? What if I accidentally get a yes, right? So I'd sit down and I'd say, hey, Scott, before we get started, so, we had some chitty chat and you're interested in my topic. If I'm an insurance agent or a realtor or a coach or whatever I am, I'd say, before we get started, would you please do me a favor and take a look at these 4 cards? And I'd hand them to the person and their hand would physically take them from me. And then I would instruct them, and I'm going to show you how this works. I'd say to the client, I'd say, take a look at the 4 cards, and I just want you to prioritize them based on what's most important and most like you, down to least important, least like you. Scott, this is going to help me serve you better or get to know you better and save us both some time. And then I'd shut up and watch what would happen. And every single time, 100% of the time, the client would take the cards, look at them, sort them. They'll do it differently with, which picks up on their personality type already. Yes. And then they stack them back up and hand them back. And they look at me like, I did it. What's next? Now, I want to deconstruct what just happened. Because first of all, there's going to probably be a little thought in people's minds that says, are you serious? You actually want me to like pull these out? I'm a successful real estate agent. I'm a coach. I'm a you running a franchise. I'm macho. Am I really going to pull out these gimmicky cards? And the answer is yes. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the client wants to do it 100% of the time. 1, their curiosity gets the best of them. It's a novelty. 2, the topic on the card, Scott, it's not about you or me. It's about them. So in this role model case, it's not about Cheri. It's about Scott.
And who doesn't want to focus on themselves?
That's right. Their favorite subject. Thank you for talking about me. And third is I actually use the science of bank to give you the instruction where I spoke all 4 codes. I spoke B, A, N, and K, and I'm going to deconstruct it so that your members can see exactly the science of why this works. When I handed the cards to the customer and say, take a look at these cards, I'm talking to the knowledge personality type, this green one that wants more information, and they're now reading the data on the cards. I then give them the instructions. The blueprint wants the instructions, the process, the rules. How does this work? I said, look at the cards, sort them in order, prioritize them, sequence them, most important to least important. That just satisfied their inner blueprint. I then said, Scott, this is going to help me serve you better or get to know you better. And I'm now connecting with the inner nurturer in you that wants a relationship with me authentically. And I end it with, and save us both some time, because I'm now talking to the interaction who's like, hurry up, chop, time is money, let's go.
The first time I heard you say that, you were about halfway into it when I caught on. I was like, that's brilliant. I mean, it's brilliant the way you introduce it and you touch on all 4 types. But I want to give a little testimonial here. I too felt that sort of hokey, that sort of funny. It's not beneath me, but you get the point.
Yeah.
And as I've used it, people love it. And it just leads to a great discussion. And then you get back on what you're there to talk to them about or offer them or see if there's a match for your product or service. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and
it works.
It works every time, and you're blown away. And the truth is, you feel good about it because they love to do it. They love to do it. It doesn't even matter what their personality type is.
Okay, so here's the cool point. Just like network in action, I know you're just like me. You're staying awake at night and you're waking up in the middle of the night. I call it my little angel visit. I mean, you're just continuing to build on this and grow on this. And so all of a sudden, I'm sure somewhere this wasn't in the beginning, artificial intelligence comes into play. And now we have a website. And in its brilliance, if I'm about to have an appointment with Cheri and I've never met her before and it's in this afternoon, I can go over and I can pop into the website her about me on LinkedIn or any text or anything she's written me, emails, and it will decode Cheri for me. So talk about that journey and how we got to that point.
Yeah, so actually it went from the cards where our clients would buy the cards and they'd attend workshops. We'd host code breaker summits so that people could actually learn bank and then learn how to use the tools of bank and start increasing their sales dramatically. I mean, the stories I could tell you will blow you away. But what happened is technology started to accelerate in the marketplace. People started meeting virtually over Skype before Zoom existed. And Scott, they'd literally take my cards because they were almost freaked out, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to crack the code if I can't hand it to them? And so they got creative, as any entrepreneur does, and they started holding them up to their cameras on their laptops or, desktops and saying, Scott, tell me when you're done reading this one. Okay, take a look at that one. Or they'd take a picture with their cell phone and text it to the person and have, and I said, all right, what if we actually built a digital version of these cards and put it on a landing page and created a little URL that you could send to your prospect even prior to meeting with them and say, hey, do me a favor before we meet. Let's save some time. I want to prepare to serve you the best way possible. Take 90 seconds and crack your code. And by the way, when you do it, I've already paid for the assessment. That's my gift to you. You're like, well, thank you very much. And you're going to get a free personality report. It's like a $99 report that you get for free as my gift. And you're like, well, thank you, right? Because even when you do the cards, there's no report that's generated. But when you do the electronic version of the cards, there is. So Scott, what started happening is people would send their link. We call it Bank Pass. They'd send the link to crack their code that was tracked back to them. The client would drag and drop the cards digitally, put in their name, phone number, and email to get the free report. And all of a sudden, a lead was captured for the person who sent that assessment. It's a subscription model now. And we generate a corresponding report. So when Scott cracks his code and here's his bank code and you get your report, it creates a corresponding sales report for me, the subscriber, that says, here's Scott's name, phone number, email, bank code, and here's the top tips of how to communicate, negotiate, and close the sale. Good luck on your appointment and take it to the bank.
Yeah.
So that technology was our first step into technology. Our company's called Code Breaker Technologies, right? Based in the bank methodology. So that became the first iteration. And we've done hundreds of thousands of these digital assessments. And then as artificial intelligence started to enter the world, one of our advisors was one of the founders of IBM Watson. And he's like, you guys need to have an artificial intelligence that can detect someone's code so that whether or not they ever do this version of the assessment, you can still capture the code. And that's when we built Code Breaker AI, which landed us in Forbes as the future of sales and got us invited to speak and roll this out at the United Nations at their AI conference back in 2019. Was, what if we had an AI that could basically predict what someone's bank code was and then guide you on how to engage that person respectfully based on their bank code. So
yeah,
yes.
That's a perfect segue. It goes so far beyond just sales. It's relationships. I've used it with my wife and kids. It's we'll be introducing it in network and action meetings where it's networking and how do you network with people. It goes so much beyond sales. So let's talk about real quick. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually put the electronic version we'll plan it into the email here, the video here. But let's talk a little bit about if a person wants to access Cheri bank to use on all their sales calls, what would they do?
So like I said, this is a subscription model. So what we offer to our clients is a subscription where you can actually subscribe. And we have a couple of tiers, like a $29 a month or a $99 a month. The $99 a month one is the unlimited version, unlimited assessments, unlimited use of the AI. I mean, it's 92% of our customers choose that one, but now it's the equivalent, Scott, of bringing someone like me on every sales call that you have from this point forward and every conversation that you're having, including, like you said, with your spouse, your children, etc., of like letting you know what the bank code is and how to engage or respond accordingly to get the best win-win outcome and avoid the conflict or the loss of the sale because you spoke the wrong code, essentially.
Perfect. So we're going to bury that code where you can click on it and purchase this right away. And I'm going to give to all of our members a guarantee. I don't know if you're aware, Cheri, but our members get a guarantee return on investment when they join and participate in Network in Action. I'm making this promise to you right now. if you purchase bank for $99 and you use it 10 times in the next 30 days and you're not happy, you call me directly on my cell phone number at 713-417-6152, and I will return your 99 bucks and you can cancel the subscription. I believe in this so much that I feel like we can really help people move the needle. I'm very proud of the fact, Cheri, when COVID first hit a few years ago, Network in Action immediately went out and started introducing PPP loans to all of our members. And we have lots of members today who tell us, they stayed in business because of our education. And then we immediately became experts on idle loans. We've introduced AI in our meetings I'm getting tons of reports back of how people are using AI. I don't embrace things that I don't know will move the needle for our members. And I know this will. So I really want to encourage you to click on the link that we're going to provide, learn more about it. Cheri's got a ton of videos out there, and keep my personal guarantee in the back of your mind if you're wondering about whether or not this will work. Okay, lastly, there is a business opportunity. There may be some people, Cheri, who say, you know what, I want to become is it a bank reseller, or what's the proper terminology?
Yeah, well, actually, so what happened was our customers were getting such fantastic results. Every time they would share the cards with someone to crack their code, the customer was like, how do I get that? How do I use that? I want to do that. And so they started approaching our company and just blowing up our phones saying, hey, do you guys have an affiliate program? And by the way, do you guys have a certification program? I want to teach this. I want to monetize it. So we actually ended up building both. We have an influencer opportunity because we call bank the art and science of influence. So if someone wanted to become an affiliate with us, we call them an influencer, and there's a full business model that's attached. There's massive and passive income streams that someone could earn by simply introducing bank to other people, other salespeople. I mean, this goes way beyond sales. We've got doctors and chiropractors and accountants and attorneys and all the traditional business lines using the bank system. So someone could become an influencer and start monetizing it. Even if it's just to get their subscription for free, you can do it, but you can turn it into hundreds or thousands of dollars of additional money a month. And then there's the certified trainer side of it, where people say, I want to get a professional certification. I want to teach this, or this is going to enhance and be an accelerator in my primary business. So we have the certification side of it too, which is phenomenal.
So think about that. If you're a business coach out there, a consultant, which we have lots of in our groups around the country, you have a whole new revenue stream here. I got to ask you one last question. I'm wondering, when you were reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, did you ever dream that you'd be on the stage with Robert or Richard Branson or Tony Robbins? Where do I stop? Scott Talley?
Yes, I can now add you to my list. Thank you, Scott. I love it. To be honest, I'm blown away. I'm super humbled by all of this. Even I got to not only speak, but teach at Harvard University at a master's level class. I have a family, 6 kids in my family, and out of my parents and all the siblings, every one of them has a master's degree except me. But I remember Robert Kiyosaki saying, you can get an MBA from college, you can get an MBA massive bank account. And I'm like, I'll take that one, please.
Yes, massive.
So I just thought it was funny that I'm the only one of the kids that got to teach at Harvard, but I don't have an MBA.
That's an awesome story. Well, I know how busy you are.
So,
I think the coolest part about the similarity for both of us, I tell people all the time, I'm living my best life. I wake up every day and all I do is help people. Whether it's our franchise owners or our members, I'm constantly trying to make people's lives better. And you get to do that, through this system you've created, where I really believe in my heart, anybody that embraces bank is going to find their life more efficient and their bank account larger, period. I believe that in my heart. I've experienced it myself, and I'm just so grateful that you came into my life.
Scott, I just want to say before you end that, I can't tell you the amount of clients that have come to us saying, hey, your system saved my marriage. Your system made me a better parent. Your system helped prevent a suicide in our family. Bank goes way beyond just the customer engagement experience. And that's why I'm passionate. Our mission as a company is to connect and empower humanity. Our mantra is make people matter. And I want to let your members know, this is why we strategically aligned with you in the NIA, because for you to be the visionary owner with all of your franchisees and your members across the world that are participating, networking saved my business. It taught me a skill set of how to interact with people. It's probably because of networking that I started becoming fascinated about the study of people, which led me down this path. And we're proud to be affiliated with you, and we're proud to support the network, and we'll do everything we can to provide the support to your membership base to not only understand bank and use bank, but be able to truly enhance their influence, their income, and their impact as a result of it. So thank you for that.
Awesome. So every member, if you want to find the easiest link to bank, all you do is go to log into your website at Network in Action. And over on the right-hand side, you'll see business solutions, and you can click on bank, watch this video, see more information, and actually purchase the product right there. So Cheri, thank you again for your time. Go enjoy some of that great California weather and your baby.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Take care.